Malaga, de nada, said Recreativo Granada. As for 12 hours, we stood top of the ladder. After a grande 3-0 win, we couldn't have been gladder because Kevin Medina, a barnstormer, he had her. Dribbling through their team as easy as a breeze and forcing the Oppo to score an OG. But please, let's also talk about Dione. A man who scores after Bocadillo con Lomo. Our views on him go up and down like a yo-yo. But now that man is starting to score like a goal hoe, banging them in because YOLO. So keep burying that ball and keep making a shout goal, goal. Then Hernandez made it free to top a great showing, with this team now taking off like they've been designed by Boeing. Next up, Linares. That's where we're going. A Desplazamiento, 2,000 fans shouting, let's go. Malaga Vamo, and hopefully saluting another goal from Roberto. Imagine 4 wins in a row. Oh my God, a path in recent years Malaga have really trod. So let's talk about how that could happen on the latest Giri Cast pod. Good day, everyone. I am Matt Harrison, and you are listening to the Giri Cast on Sport Direct Radio, the Malaga fan podcast for all the Giris out there. As always, I am joined by Nick Bell. Nick, how are you?
Very good, thank you very much. I'm just trying to think. Am I a bit of a goal hoe? Back in my time, I don't know. I don't think I was.
I think I've been a bit loose with the term goal hoe since he's only scored 2 goals, but it did rhyme quite nicely with the rest. So hopefully he keeps hoeing out those goals.
And we're talking about gardening as well here, not the other hoeing.
Yes, of course. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Just to keep it clean for YouTube, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Alex, do you consider yourself a goal hoe?
Well, in year 5, I did score 13 goals in about 5 games, but it was playing for the 6th, so not really sure that counts. Not really, yeah. I think my footballing prowess comes from centre-back, so not really many goal-scoring opportunities apart from headers. So, yeah.
I can just see your year 6 teacher going, get 6 for Alex up top. All you little children, just cross the ball in and just... It was 13 headers, wasn't it, Alex?
No, to be fair, they're all with my feet. I think, some more skilled than others. My first goal, I meant to toe poke it in the corner, but ended up chipping a defender and a keeper at the same time. So, yeah.
Lee Trundle-esque.
Yeah. Alex, just carrying on the Dione theme, since I asked the others last week, we talked about his love of Bocadillo con Lomo, en manteca, that's the important bit. Do you have a favorite Bocadillo?
Ooh, that is... I'm a fan of a Bocadillo de Tortilla, but I think my go-to one is a Bocadillo de Jamón. I think that's just sort of, with a bit of queso as well. Simple, wrap it up in tin foil, take it with you, and you have it at halftime. I think, Bocadillo con Jamón y queso.
Yeah, with tortilla, I just find there's not a lot going on there, and it's so... I remember actually going to La Rosaleda one time, and there is like a Bocadillo shop just around the corner from Barcelona, Madrid, and I hadn't really eaten, and I thought, I better eat something. And in the veggie, they only had like meat ones and Bocadillo con tortilla. And I remember just walking up to Barcelona, Madrid, and going to get a beer, and I thought, no, I need to have 10 minutes here. It's just so filling, I can't do them. I really can't do them. Anyway, let's go into latest news. Again, a bit of a mishmash of news this week. We'll start with the Kings League is coming to Malaga in a couple of weeks' time. We don't have official confirmation, but word on the street / social media is that our game against Melilla, which was going to be on a Sunday, is now going to be moved to October the 12th, which is a Thursday, which I think it's the 12th or 11th. I can't remember, whichever one's the Thursday, which for those that don't know is a national holiday here in Spain. But yeah, the Kings League are coming to Malaga. Alex, you're young and hip and probably have skateboard and shout cowabunga. Do you know much about the Kings League? Have you been watching it with all the cool kids on the YouTube?
I haven't actually. I saw the live stream that PK did with the YouTuber eBay the other day, where they were talking about La Rosaleda. But yeah, I can't say I've watched any games of the Kings League.
Nick, you're a social media. You're social media savvy. Have you been on the YouTube watching the Kings League?
I've not been on the YouTube, but I've followed it ever so slightly. It is the most spectacular midlife crisis you can see, in my opinion. PK just seems to be not wanting to grow up at all, and some of his antics are hilarious. Obviously, some of them not, i.e. cheating on Shakira. That's a very faux pas thing. Yeah. It does sound interesting though, the Kings League. I can't say I've watched loads of it, but the fact that you can get, call up ex-professionals, it just brings me there. I think last season he had a current Liga player that played in a mask, and he was like the Mysterio man. So I can see the value in it for entertainment, especially for those younger generations, Matt, that we're unfortunately not a part of anymore. All these Sidemen charity matches that are selling out arenas and things like that. So it has its place. It's just a shame that people's weekends are potentially going to be messed up with it happening rather than the actual football. So I think a few of the people in the Telegram group were supposed to be out for the Merlia game and or the Castilla game, and now their plans have been disrupted because Gerard Piqué wants to come to Malaga.
Yeah, they could go much the Kings League.
They could, to be fair, yeah. I don't know how they do that.
Well, this is what I was going to ask you guys, because I've sort of, I follow enough Spanish football accounts on Twitter that I do see footage of it and never really quite got my head around it. So I did have a quick read today and about this rules and it's 7-a-side, and it's generally football with, it sounds a bit like football Mario Kart with like power-ups and things like that. There's things of, you get cards, I think, and when you play the card, you get a penalty, or you can get double goals, or you can get an extra player. It sounds quite. I think it is very much football for the YouTube generation, isn't it? And things being but yeah, you're right. With regards of our audience, there are people affected by they've booked their flights and I don't know, maybe accommodation and things like that, and they're going to have to cancel or come up with another plan or move their flights. It seems, I know our very own Chris Marquez was straight on the case to try and get justice for these people. But the issue seems to be that this is not so much Malaga Club de Football arranging this. This seems to have been done through the city, or the city owned the stadium, and Malaga are sort of helpless, really. I think I'm right in saying that, aren't I?
Yeah. It's, Malaga are tenants rather than owners in La Rosaleda. So I think the opportunity and the money that comes with it, like you say, this is the YouTube generation. They'll get loads of ticket sales from all the kids want to come and watch it. PK will be slapping some money down on a desk. And the optics of it, the marketing you get from it as well is probably worth a hell of a lot, especially with what you're going to talk about next.
Yeah, just quickly, I should say as well, I think the weekend after it carries on and we are due to play Castilla at home. And that game is, again, it's not official, but word on the street is that it's going to be switched to Madrid and played at Castilla's ground, which, for those that don't know, Castilla is Real Madrid's B team. Just a couple of other little bits of news. I saw Quique Perez in an interview with Malaga Hoy saying that he thought local businesses or local sponsors would perhaps give a bit more money and help the club or support the club a bit more, and he doesn't feel like they have. It's not something I really know too much about there. We seem to have got in quite a few sponsors, but maybe not as many as Quique Perez hoped. I don't know, Alex, do you feel like we should be pushing the Malaga brand more, or people should be jumping on board the Malaga brand?
I mean, to be brutally honest, in these times, I know, Spain, I don't know how the situation is for sort of general people and people running businesses in Spain, but I can imagine most people, when it comes down to running a business, it's either, spend 10,000 on a sponsorship at a football club, or 10,000 to pay someone's wages, or, buying produce and stuff like that. So to be honest, I can't blame them if it comes down to those sort of decisions. And it feels like Quique Perez is using that as a sort of excuse for him, not pulling his finger out and doing enough work to get those sponsorships. That's his job, he shouldn't rely on people to do it himself.
Oh, strong words from Alex Ashmore there. Nick Bell, I don't know if you agree.
I think with any commercial opportunity, you've got to do it from a position of strength. There's no surprise that all the big companies, whether it's in Spain or internationally, are advertising clubs that are in the Champions League. At the end of the day, Malaga are a third-tier Spanish side that don't have the marketability that it once had. That's why it's the same in England, that teams get sponsored by solicitors and funeral directors rather than big television companies if you're in the Premier League. So you can complain, but at the end of the day, there's got to be an ROI on sponsorship. And at the minute, Malaga are playing literally teams that are in the same region as them.
Yeah, and then when they're not, they seem to be playing B teams, which is not
exactly.
Yeah. So I just thought I'd mention that with another person that's spoken this week on Ser Deportivos is the general director of ATM Broadcast, Evaristo Cobos. ATM Broadcast are the company, I believe, that runs FA TV, which is the platform which Malaga fans can watch. Well, not just Malaga games, can watch everyone in the Primera Federación. Apparently, and again, you guys know better than me, you've used that service a lot more. I think I've only used it once, actually, and it seemed, I think I said on last week's podcast, it seemed pretty sound to me, but apparently there is quite a lot of complaints from Malaga fans, I heard. I don't know if it's across other clubs as well, that this general director, Cobos, has come out with a statement saying, we took on the challenge with a very short period of time, the challenge being televised in this league, and we are improving and recovering some issues that have not worked well from day one. We are aware and we are working on it. We apologize to all subscribers. He also said as well that apparently an app is close to being released and it's being trialed on Android and iPhone now, or it's being trialed by some people. So Alex, I don't know, have you had any hiccups with this service? I think you had, actually, wasn't it? It was the Castellón game you couldn't get on.
Yeah, well, to be honest, all of them. I think the Castellón game, I missed the first. I think, to be honest, I think me, you, Nick, we both missed the first sort of 20 minutes, didn't we? I think last game I got the red screen of death until about 10 minutes in. The Atleti game, I missed sort of bits here and there because it would just freeze and cut out. And to be honest, I get that he's taking it on at short notice and, running these things. I don't have the slightest idea of how to run a streaming service, but yeah, it could be a whole lot better. And whether it will be improved, we'll just have to wait and see, really. I think, like Nick said on the live stream, an app will probably work a lot better because, it's just easier to run things through there.
Yeah, I think he said in the interview as well that it works. The browsers work better on phones. So I don't know if you guys have found that, but I don't know, Nick, if you have anything to add, because I think you've had a sort of mixed bag with this service.
Well, I think obviously the initial problem was signing up for it, and that day where we were literally going to the 11th hour thinking, can we actually watch this game? And then when we did, it just kept kicking you out, etc. But and then we ended up watching it 20 minutes behind accidentally because you clicked it from the start. But up until this weekend, when I think there was a bit of a blanket covering a technical issue at La Rosaleda on their side, I've not had too many problems with it, to be fair. I found it quite all right, quite easy to use. The coverage is good. I'm obviously not listening to the commentary, but I assume that's fine as well. But you'll always come up against your challenges, and I think that was really compounded by the footage from Antequera at the weekend, and the camera can obviously go only in a certain place in the ground, and unfortunately, every time somebody scores, the crowd stand up and cheer in front of the cameras. But I'm sure they're doing their best.
I suppose these issues, it can't get worse, I guess, is what you'd hope to happen. You're gonna have when do we play Antequera? I think it's around the last week of October, or maybe I think it's around the 20th of October we go to Antequera. So you could have quite a fun live stream if you do that game, guys. Trying to otherwise it might. Well, I was going to say it might be me recording in the stadium, but I think a ticket for that game is going to be quite quite a struggle to get. I think that's going to be the one there's going to be a big clamour for. Yes. Anyway, so hopefully FA can get better. And thank you for owning up, Mr. Corbos, and owning it so far. I suppose that's good of him. Top marks. Evaristo, great name. Not seen the name Evaristo as a first name. And
sounds more South American than Spanish.
Yeah, it does, very much does. So, get in touch, Evaristo. We'd love to hear from you. Okay, and then just one more thing, and I only added this to the agenda just very quickly when Alex mentioned it just before we went on air that we talked a couple of weeks ago that Ivan Jaime has moved from Familcao, I think, or Familcao, I'm guessing, to Porto recently, which meant Malaga were to get a chunk of money, which was around 500,000. That all sounds great. That's a lot of money for this league. But Alex, it sounds like we are getting it in 4 installments over 4 years.
Well, so yeah, it's 2 million in total. So we'll get 500,000 for 4 years every year. So still feels kind of a bit like, ugh, I know it's 500,000 is a lot for Malaga, but it always feels like these sort of deals you get excited, like the Ricardo Horta deal. You think we're going to get a few million here, but then it actually turns out to be 10 euros a day for 25 years or whatever.
Well, you've made me feel a bit better there, because when you said, it's 500,000 earlier, I thought, I'm sure it's more than that. And I was a bit sort of like, I thought we were getting a couple of million. So that's made me feel better that I misheard you. Nick, I don't know if you have anything to add on it. It's just how football works these days, I think, is nobody plays lump sums anymore, do they?
No, at least this one's happening, and the selling club have committed to it. And let's be perfectly honest, we never saw even Jaime on our radar really when he was sent off to the lower end of the Portuguese top flight. I don't think we're ever expecting to get this kind of money for him.
I'd seen him play. I always quite liked him. I'm not saying I thought this guy is going to be 10 million and go to Porto, but I was a bit surprised when we got rid of him. He was still very young, and I just remember quite liking him. I think I've seen him come on as a sub a couple of times. Or I might have even seen him play for Atletico Malagueño. I can't remember which one, but I always remember his name stood out for some reason. I always quite liked him.
He came through at a similar time to Ramon, didn't he?
Yeah, I think just before him, I think he was part of that same sort of academy team, but I think he got in he was playing in he was on the bench for the first team quite a lot the year before Ramon got in the squad. He was sort of with, I'm trying to think who else was in that team. My mind's gone blank, but yeah, he was with the guy that we sold to Real Madrid. He was with him, I think, Hugo Vallejo.
Yeah, was Ontiveros in that team as well, if I'm rightly.
Yeah, I think Ontiveros would have just gone to Villarreal, but I think Ontiveros a bit ahead. But yeah, anyway, like you said, I don't think we expected this sort of money from him.
Accidental money, couple of million that you never would expect to come in. And to be fair, forecasting wise, 500,000 a season at this level is a hell of an influx of cash. And maybe going forward, I know Lorenz says we can't count on that money for this season, but at least we know for next season there's 500,000 sat in the bank waiting for us to be spent on a 30-goal a season striker.
Yeah, if we're lucky, maybe he'll buy a fifth string goalkeeper in 25 years with that money. I don't know, the sort of transfer he's setting aside for buying back some 35-year-old.
There you go. Yeah, you're right. Sorry, I'm thinking, what's he talking about? I've seen where you're going now, but yes, because as you said, Nick, the money might come in handy next year, because this year so far, this season, things are going pretty well on the pitch, and I think that is a good way to go to our section where we are going to talk about Malaga 3. Recreativo Granada 0. So yes, another lovely day out in Malaga and a lovely night out at La Rosaleda. I didn't do a Vamos a La Rosaleda episode, as I put on the WhatsApp group. I tried to think of an excuse and I said, I can't really be bothered today. And I probably should have, because it was quite a good day in the end. And shout out to Paul, our Scottish friend, who came along with me for the usual trail of bars, which was fun. But yes, we got up to La Rosaleda and went to the usual bar across the road from Bar Hermanos Madrid, fake Bar Hermanos Madrid. And the starting 11 came out. And again, I don't think there's too many surprises here. Juande kept his place. Alongside Nelson Monte. I should shout out here, I met Nelson Monte's family very briefly on Saturday. They all had their Nelson Monte shirts on. I think there was a grandparent. I think there was, a girlfriend or wife, a kid, and that was nice to see. And yeah, the only other sort of, I don't know, surprise or, yeah, I guess it was a surprise because he's played well recently, was Sangali coming in for Danny Lorenzo. I don't know, Nick, if you guys picked up a bit more team news before the game, if you heard more, was that just tactical, do you think, or was there a knock to Danny Lorenzo because he did come on?
No, not at all. I think it was just literally just changing a couple of players around, maybe giving Sangali some game time was Pelli-Press's plan. So yeah, whether maybe Dan Lorenzo's played a bit too much football, I don't know, but it was a surprise, to be fair, given how well he's played in the last two games.
Yeah, again, I agree with you. I think it was just to keep Sangali ticking over because I think he's had a really good start to his time at Malaga, and I guess himself has been quite unlucky to be on the bench for as many minutes as he had. Would you agree with that, Alex?
Yeah, I think he came out. I'm trying to remember the Castellon game. I feel like I was impressed with him, and
me too.
Generally, I feel like he's a player that when we did sign him, I was expecting things. I had high hopes for him. He feels like a solid midfielder, and it's obviously hard because you want to play all the youngsters and get them in because they are getting some more, showing some serious talent. But yeah, I think good to see that Sangali got some minutes as well.
Yeah. Just quickly again, is Einar still injured? Or was that just keeping Juande? Because that's one I didn't check out actually.
Yeah, he was on the bench. I'm not really sure.
So I think it was just a case of let's just keep Juande, and that's how I read it anyway. I weren't sure if you guys heard, there was a little bit of a knock still, and maybe not wanting to risk him. But yeah, we'll perhaps talk about Sangai in this game. And yeah, it's a good problem to have that we can rotate these midfielders, and we still have another midfielder coming in from the cold of the treatment room soon, but maybe we'll talk about that in the next part. I was going to go positive start again, yada, yada, yada. Come on, guys. Can we talk about Kevin? Let's go straight into it. We should say, he did score, sort of, in the 10th minute, which, again, you guys were the ones that told me, because me and Paul and Keith, we were trying to work out who'd scored, and we were like, was it an own goal or had Roberto scored? And then I saw your guys' tweet saying that's one for Matt, and I was like, Kevin hasn't scored, has he? And he's had it, and then they took the goal off him and give it as an own goal, and very rightly so, to be honest with you. But excellent tackle to get the move going, sort of a cross shot. I'm not really sure what he was going for, which was tucked in by the Granada defender. Alex, I don't know if there's much to say about the goal, really. It was good work from Kevin with the tackle, but what would you say was different about Kevin's performance this week, perhaps compared to last week or maybe the last few weeks?
Yeah, we were talking about this on the live stream, and I think there was some mention, I can't remember whether you mentioned it, but the high socks weren't for him last week, because obviously he wasn't going too well, but then he stuck at it this week. I think, he just seemed a little bit more determined, especially I think that goal was probably the perfect example of the difference in his performance. I feel like he felt like he had something to prove, and that tackle and that run and probably a shot that ended up being a slight pass cross for the own goal. I think it was just showed maybe that he obviously knew that he'd had a subpar performance last week, so he wanted to show that he was better than that, and I think it was a wonderful move.
Yeah, and I think I've said it many times on this podcast that I think tackling is one of his strong points, actually, and he's particularly good at that sort of tackle where he sort of hooks his leg round, and it was sort of like a scoop tackle. So you obviously did the live stream as well, Nick. So you watched on TV, so you would have had a different perspective from me. Like how did Kevin's performance look on TV, and how was it different perhaps the week before, where we give him the chumbo and we slated him a little bit?
Yeah, well, I think there's maybe twofold for this. Firstly, he played spectacularly well. He was kind of doing everything that we'd asked of him the week before, so I don't know if he's got a line into the Giri cast. Obviously, dropping down league gives you a smaller microcosm to work with, so maybe that's what it is. Or maybe a part of it is he saw you give him a chumbo on the midweek show on YouTube, walked across to his locker, opened the door and just stared at the Matt Harrison picture that he has inside there and gone, I can't do this to him again. And I'm just putting the performance of a lifetime. So
but
I like to think that's what happened.
He did keep his socks up though. He didn't give me a flash of some carbs. So he wasn't going to listen that much. He might be listening to this though, because I think I tweeted that I was looking forward to talking about him on the podcast, and he does follow me on Twitter, and he did give it a like, but yeah. I honestly don't think he's gonna.
I think the curse is real. Oh, I don't know if it is a curse. Actually, I don't know if it's a gift. Maybe we've got a gift where we slag players off, we give them chumbos, and then they score and go in great form. Look at Roberto. Look at Dione. Now Kevin. Who next? Can we bless with this magic?
Well, we'll see how this naturally unfolds. But I think for this game, it actually might be a little bit of a struggle. I thought everyone had a pretty good game, actually. Just quickly, obviously, I thought he was spectacular. And as I'm sure Paul will testify, sitting next to me, pretty much every time he did something, I just went, look at him. I think that's all I said all night was, that was it. I kept saying, look at him and look at him. He's having a lovely time, isn't he? That's what I just kept saying. And he was having a lovely time. And yeah, I think, we could talk about, I can talk about it all podcast, but I think the one thing we should perhaps mention is that dribble, which sort of went not viral, but got shared around a lot, of him sort of cutting in from the right down by the penalty box and running past a few and then sort of stopping and starting again. And the Granada team just going, just kick him. Dropped him down. That was, so Kevin enjoyed that too, because I think he shared it multiple times on his Instagram, that one video of him running, but I would do the same, to be fair. Great stuff from Kevin. I think he might be talked about again later. Then we sort of, again, I guess we would just look really comfortable for all this game, and we could talk about the opposition in a second maybe, but it was only about 10 minutes later. It was 2-0, and obviously Dione scoring again. First, perhaps we'll talk about the goal first. I think you guys might have even said on the live stream and perhaps spoke at halftime, we were a bit like we didn't really understand the goal in the stadium. And I think you guys said like the keeper was at fault, or you might have said he was a little bit at fault. Forgive me, they'd been victorious. But when I watched the goal back, I thought it was a really good finish, actually. I'm not saying the goalie, he gets beat by his near post. It's not good goalkeeping either, but I think it was a nice. He could put it right in the corner and he hit it hard. I don't know, Nick. What was that? The conversation you had on the live stream, or?
Yeah, well, it kind of came not out of nowhere. We were in the ascendancy. We were controlling the game because we were expecting the second goal at some point. But the finish was actually really nice. A lot of power into it as well, and that's kind of what you want to see from Dione. That centre striker scoring inside the box, whereas when he's been trying to cut in from the right or whatever he's done, he's not having much success. But now he's got 2 goals in 2 games. He seems to be off his mark a little bit and getting confidence, scoring goals. Yeah, so more bocadillos for him. But yeah, again, really nice finish. He clearly enjoyed it as well with his celebration, straight over to the corner flag, straight over to the fans. More of that, please, Mr. Dione or Senora Dione.
Yeah, there was sort of like a split second where he had a sight of that corner, I think, wasn't it? And there was no hesitation. He just hit it hard. Would you put any blame on the goalie, Alex?
Oh, yeah. I feel like you can't conceding goals like that. I feel like he's the only person you can blame, to be honest. It was a good finish. Looked like a strong shot from the angle we had on the telly. I think it felt like a very experienced striker's finish. He can see that he wants to go down in the bottom corner, and he puts some power behind it. So yeah, I think a better keeper probably would have saved it. So yeah, you could say put the blame on the keeper, but also I think a lovely little move from Roberto to set him up before. I think maybe old Roberto would have tried to shoot or tried to put in some old silly cross. But I think he's living off the high of getting in my predicted starting 11 before the season. So,
do you know who will be happy about that goalkeeping performance, though? The Atletico Madrid Bay goalkeeper, who had a howler as well. He's now not the worst performing goalkeeper we've seen at La Rosaleda this season, because he was all over the place. This guy, he made me question whether he should actually continue as a goalkeeper, which is a bit harsh, but he didn't seem to have much of an understanding of the job.
I suppose naturally being a goalkeeper of a B team, you are being told you are inexperienced in a position which sort of benefits from experience. You can't train with the first team. It must already be a bit of a confidence shaker, I guess. And we've still got, we've got, how many we got to go? Just Castilla at home? Like, how many B teams in the league? 3, yeah? The 2 Madrids.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Castilla next. We'll have to see who their goalie is. I bet they've got quite a good goalie, Real Madrid. So,
it'll be Courtois if he's coming back from injury. I think he's out for a little bit longer. But
I think we play Castilla at the end of the season, don't we? So maybe just as he's coming back.
Yeah.
If it's Kepa, we'll be all right.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. Now, just staying on Dione then. I'll be honest with you. I can't say he really jumped out at me in regards of a performance, but I can't really say I was really keeping an eye on him. I don't know if you guys, what did you make of his performance overall? Because he still seemed to be better, but he was still a bit missing for me.
I can't remember whether it was last week or the week before where I said if he has a performance like that every time and he manages to bag a goal, he can play like that every game for me, to be honest.
Yes.
If he does that, gets 20 goals in a season, that will do wonders for us. And I think, the more we see of him and Roberto up top, I realise that Roberto is more of the runner. I feel like I knew that it was going to be the case, but you can see, I think hopefully now Dione is getting used to that partnership, that he's more choosing his positions rather than trying to chase the ball. Roberto, I can't remember what was the occasion where we had that shot that went sort of close. It sort of hit the bar or the post, and it was from about 30 yards out. Was that Roberto or was that Dione?
Yeah, there was sort of quite early into the second half, wasn't there? And again, like Nick's just said, the keeper just wandered off somewhere, and
he was just having a walk.
He was, and literally it was like, and then I think the defender went, "Phew, I've got the ball back from our goalie," and then Roberto took the ball off him as well, and then hit the post. Interesting. I was going to perhaps bring this up later, but it seems a good point to mention it now. I don't know if you saw I think it was with I can't remember, because I've seen 2 interviews with Roberto this week. He did one with El Fútbol de Primera, which is the sort of, I think it's like the YouTube channel of the Primera Federación. He did one with Radio Marca Malaga. And I can't remember which one he said it in, so I'll say them both. But he was saying about what Pelli-Press has been telling him to do, and apparently Pelli-Press has been telling him to get in line with the sort of near post and then hit shots inside. And if you think about it, that's where his 2 goals have come from so far, like the header where he flicked it across, and the one against Atleti B where he was at the post and he tucked it in. And it did make me think that if Pelli-Press is telling him to do that, like, makes it sound more like Dione's the one that is going to be sort of floating about, which seems that it should be the other way round to me. Again, I just sort of jumped out at me when I read that interview.
Well, even from Kevin's attempt, it was Roberto that was ready to pounce on the near post. He hit the near post in the first half as well, didn't he? So he's obviously, he's right, because he said it for his the way he plays. I think what you can get in that scenario and what we're seeing, and maybe we were too harsh on both of them at the start of the season in that one game, is that Dioni's not necessarily the most dynamic player you're going to ever see in a Malaga shirt. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. But he's got that ability just to appear when he's ready or when he's needed to put a ball in. He's not going to do the pressing that Kevin and Roberto does or that Daniel Rubia does. He's just there to contribute when he needs to. And then you saw in that second half where Alex was referring to the chance where Roberto tried to chip the goalkeeper from distance. He literally ran across from the right-hand touchline to pretty much the left-hand touchline to win that ball back. So if he's got that kind of energy and that kind of determination, and then he's going to score goals in it as well. As Alex just said, Dioni doesn't need to do all that. Dioni can just exist and then do what he needs to do. You know, he's still contributing in his own way. So he could still do more if he needed to. And I think we've not seen the finished article yet, but it's great to see him scoring.
Yeah, it's. I will say as well. I don't know if you guys could see it on the coverage on TV, but that run you mentioned, it was incredible how far he ran. He did that a hell of a lot, and it came to nothing. He was chasing everything. To the extent there's a couple of kids in my school now who have got season tickets this year and started going, and they did say, the tall one up front runs everywhere. And I said, yeah. They also said to me, sir, do you like Kevin?
There is a bit of like gegenpressing from it, isn't it? Like the Jurgen Klopp gegenpressing. Maybe we need to coin the term paser pressing.
What would it be in Spanish, Alex? Contra presionado?
You could call it Pelli-Press if you were doing it in English.
Okay. Yeah, I like the Pelli-Press.
Yeah, Pelli-Press. I quite like that, actually.
That's the podcast name.
Dare I say, Kevin pressing. It doesn't quite have the alliteration. I thought
he did also impress.
He did. But that's it. They're all at it. La Rubia the week before, winning the ball back high up against Atletico Madrid Bay. Kevin's shown he can do it. Roberto's shown he's done it. So I think it's a thing. I think we're onto it, and we kind of know what it would look like we're talking about now.
I will say as well, just another note from that Radio Marca Malaga interview with Roberto. He was sort of giving a lot of praise to Dioni and saying he's learning from him. But he said, I've not had a bocadillo con lomo yet. I'm more of a pasta guy. I thought, Roberto, good one. But yes, I don't think he can do as much running with pork covered in butter in him. So, yes, I was going to ask, what did we make of Recreativo Granada? But I think we've covered that. They just weren't very good, were they? This is more of a question for me because, again, I didn't really notice him, and I just wanted to ask if you guys did. Manu Molina made his debut. He came off the bench. Anything on him? Because I can't say I saw anything, but I might be wrong.
No, he seems to have got a professional photographer following around because he had some beautiful photos taken of him walking around the pitch, but I don't think he had time to really impact things. Or maybe he's just getting up to speed, but nice to see him. He's, what did Loren prefer? He's a transfer market opportunity. It's great to see our opportunity make his debut.
I should, speaking of walking off the pitch, Kevin did have a good walk off the pitch as well when he walked the Fondo Sur and he's getting his tears, and I was like, oh, he's back. Yay. And yeah, I guess then, we had a few subs come on. I think Jorge Hernandez might have come on for Kevin, actually, but he was certainly out. He scored. I guess we just say what a finish that goal was. It was one of those ones where he hit it hard and you sort of expect it just to hit a defender and go out for another corner, but it just seemed to go through everyone. And it was good, Alex, that goal.
It kind of almost reminded me, it's very different because it's the curve, but Thiago scored a goal for Liverpool that was kind of similar, the way it sort of went very close to this floor. I don't know if I'm maybe thinking of a different goal, but no, just I can see that goal, that instance happening 10 times over and the ball ending up, in Chris's lap in the stand. So, yeah, I think it's good that he managed to keep it down. And I think once you get shots on target, I think that's my biggest thing, really. Just get it on target. You never know what's going to happen. It may go through, it may take a deflection. Keeper was probably never going to save it going through all those bodies, even if there were nobody in front of it. So I think, yeah, wonderful finish and, icing on the cake, really.
Yeah, it was sort of one of those ones he hit and we were all like, oh, it's in. Like, it was a bit of a surprise. Nick, any comments on Yogi Hernandez in general? Because I like him.
Yeah, I think he's played quite well when he's appeared. You know what I mean? He was quite good against Castellón. I think he grew into that game, especially when we pulled a goal back. He was okay when he came on against Atletico Baleares. And this game, obviously, he's capped it with a goal. And, what a goal it was. Feels like a proper thunder pump. I was going to say something else, but I can't swear on this podcast. But, yeah, well taken. And, we 3 goals at home. You can't say no to that. We should have had more.
Yeah, and I guess, poor Kevin's just walked off to like great applause, and the sub scored. Might keep a bit of pressure on him to make sure he doesn't go back to the Kevin from last week. And because I generally think Jorge Hernandez can feel a little hard done by, a bit like Sangayu, that he's not perhaps played as many minutes as he could have. Just a couple of other things before we wrap up this section. I don't know if you saw Pelli-Press post-match said, it's great, this young team, and he can't fault the effort. He said he's not happy with everything, and he thinks we should have scored the third sooner, and I think it was implied we should have scored more. Would you agree with that, Alex?
Oh, yeah. I feel like we could have got 7 or 8. It's probably unfair, but 5 or 6 at least, opportunities-wise. I think I was hoping for maybe a 7 double because Yeovil won 7-1 on the weekend, so I was hoping for maybe a similar result. But yeah, I think we will probably see Granada B or Recreativo Granada get put to the sword like this season. I can feel that sort of vibe from them. So, when they come up against the likes of Castellón, I can imagine they might get put to the sword, maybe 5, 6 goals.
Okay, so when we go to Granada the second half of the season, Nick, and we're a well-oiled machine, then do you expect 6 or 7 in that game?
Oh, absolutely. In front of all their 500-seater stadium that they play in. I think I said on the podcast last week, it was men against boys. It was a bit pathetic, really, in the grand scheme of things. And don't get me wrong, I know we've got our B team playing in even lower league, but it's just a waste of time. And you think about, you've got 3 B teams in that league who could be replaced by proper football clubs who would benefit from being in that league. And, someone might actually test us, maybe I'm getting a bit too ahead of myself because we were top of the league for 8 hours, but we need a challenge.
Yeah, well, it was funny. I was telling someone about this the other day, where I think it was when today I was telling someone about it when I was on the live feed with you as I was leaving the stadium, and you said the top of the league. I was like, no, we're not. It's like, and you're like, well, it can't be. And I was like, oh my God, we're top of the league. And so that was a bit of a crazy one for me. It was a good 12 hours, I think, because Marbella went top of the league down here as well. I think they stayed top of the league, though, but we don't talk about them. I don't know, guys, before we go to Chumbo and Biznagas, is there any other, positives you want to highlight, or any worries you had from this game?
I feel like defense-wise, a bit iffy. I know it was offside, but that goal that they scored, I feel like, a better team could have scored 1 or 2 against us and potentially got a draw. I feel like sometimes we're still a bit complacent, and, obviously no errors from Herrero this week, which is good. But, yeah, I do feel like sometimes the defense, I don't know whether it's Juande, because I know Juande's a good player, but whether it's that partnership of Einar and Monte that we have that just really feels a lot more secure than having Juande at the back.
Okay. Actually, I hadn't even thought about this, but when you said Herrero, I actually thought he was really good, actually, and sort of just caught everything and was really quite reassuring, which I think he was last week as well. He looks just good, like tidy and dependable. I say this week, and touch wood. No, that's not wood. That's wood. I touch wood. Anything, Nick, or is there anything that jumped out at you before we do Chumbo and Biznaga?
No, pretty flawless performance. I think maybe the only thing I can criticise on is that we saw a lot of fantastic individual performances. I still think as a team, it wasn't perfect. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think we could still get a lot more cohesion in the squad, building up, playing out the back. But as far as individual performances were concerned, they were very, very good.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, actually. And I think, in a way, Pelli-Press was sort of trying to downplay things after the game with some of his comments. Because, but I think every week we can see progress from this team. I think every performance has got better. And obviously the opposition, this is perhaps the weakest team we've played so far. But I think, I think the team are gelling nicely. So let's get Chumbos out the way then first. I really struggled with this, so I'm going to listen to what you guys say first. Alex, who have you got for Chumbo?
This is really tough, to be honest, because I go through the team. Like you said, Herrero had a good game. I feel bad. I can't give it to Joaquin again because, he didn't do anything wrong. Juan Day, I feel like was fairly solid. It was good to see Juan Day put in a good performance. I think.
Sub if you want, Alex. I'm trying to.
Yeah,
I was thinking Molina basically, but for no other reason that I didn't really notice him. I'm
going to go for Victor Garcia only because maybe I'd like to see a little bit more from him in attack.
I don't think that's a bad shout, actually, Alex, because I think we praised him so much last week that I don't know, maybe I don't know, he passed the baton over to Kevin this week and says, you're weak to go run a team. So again, I don't think I did notice him quite a lot and think, oh, he's really good, Victor Garcia. But I'm sort of, I think let's give him a sort of half-hearted Chumbo, maybe.
Yeah, it's hard to give it to him. It's hard to give it to anyone, really.
Nick, I don't know if you have any suggestions or.
No, I think you're being quite harsh on Victor Garcia again. I thought he had another pretty decent game, but I can see how it's difficult. I'd like to give my Chumbo this week to whichever poor individual human from, I don't know if it was La Liga or the RFEF, that decided to let B teams compete at this level and then go as high as the Segunda. I've literally just been trying to find out when that decision was made, who made it. I can't find it anywhere on the internet. But my Chumbo would like to go to that person because
they've followed their tracks well.
I'm happy to go with that. That's sort of we've been belittling B teams since we started this podcast. So I suppose it's about time we give them a Chumbo. And I think I'm happy to call off Chumbo and from any Malaga player because even
we give it to FEF TV.
They apologise for it. Whoever introduced B teams has apologised for it. So.
Okay. Right then, guys, you can do your honourable mentions and stuff here. Alex, who is your Biznaga, or anyone else you want to shout out?
I think, like I said, for the Chumbo, everyone was very solid. I thought Genaro was, didn't go. I didn't notice him much, but that's good. I think from the type of player that he is, I think he was, solid. I really like that.
Alex, I'm getting bored already. Can you just say Kevin? No, go on.
Kevin was wonderful, but I'm kind of generating a little bit of an affinity for a certain striker that I wrote off after week 1. So I Biznaga to Roberto.
He doesn't have as nice calves, Alex. Come on. We're getting down into marginal gains at the minute, and I think split hairs between the two. He's got the nice calves.
Podcast for a little joke. I just walked off. I've written down quite a lot about Roberto in my notes as well, and I thought he was excellent too. Honourable shout out. Okay, Nick.
Honourable shout out wise, Roberto, I think he deserves that. Nelson Monte again, solid. He just seems to be performing week in, week out. The biggest honourable mention for me is going to be Sangali. Coming into team, replacing Dan Lorenzo. I thought he ticked over and played very, very well. But I'm gonna have to go with Kevin this week. And we were supposed to either me or Chris was supposed to do the match ratings this week, and then by Monday, both of us have forgotten. However, if my match ratings were going to be for this week, I was going to give Kevin a 9.
Okay, I would have gone probably 8.5. No, I still think there's a couple of gears there for me. I think there's a 10 performance in there sometimes. So, yeah, what's the point? What's the point of me? Yeah. But yeah, I did think, actually, I'm glad you said Sangali, because I did need to bring him up a bit earlier. I thought he was excellent, actually, particularly in the sort of first half. And because I was thinking, oh, I really, really like Danny Lorenzo. And yeah, it's a good problem, like I said, with Danny Lorenzo and him. And we've got Ramon to come back. And again, I can't really say I noticed Gennaro in this game, which I think is a good thing for him, because I think his job is just to tick things over. And I think I did notice him eventually and go, oh yeah, he's just ticking over nicely. Roberto, I thought, was absolutely exceptional, and mainly
it's been nice to hear from Gennaro this week as well in that capacity, because he's basically explained his story and said, like, you know, the past is the past. I've had some stick. It was not great at the time, but now it's all behind me, and it's about focus on going forward. And I think he's taking this opportunity and he's repaying that faith to pace week in, week out at the minute. And as a captain, he's doing excellently.
Yeah, and we perhaps should say with Gennaro as well, like his awful run of form sort of came when Pelli-Press took over. That's when he started making all those horrible mistakes. So, you know, fair play for Pelli-Press for sticking with him, giving him another chance and getting his confidence up. So, yeah, good management and good perseverance from Gennaro. My Biznacker is Kevin. I'll just say the thing, my slogan has been all year at the end of last season, I've not changed. I said, I just want this to be fun this year. I just want to go to the game and have fun, and the football to be fun. And that's why I've always said, I know at the end of last season, we had a bit of a debate, or do we get experienced players in? And we had young players in. I just knew if we played the young players, we'd see, like, I haven't even mentioned David Larrubia, and he was a bit quieter today, but some of the things he can do with ball's amazing. But the person who's going to bring the fun is going to be Kevin. And yeah, it was literally just, I was sort of sitting there. I can see me in La Rosaleda, my feet up on the bars in front of me, because we were down on the seat in front of me, and just sort of going, look at that, amazing. It was just lovely to. I'd say it's his best performance since those opening 2 games at La Rosaleda. You know, his debut was incredible, and then I think we played Girona, and it's been up and down since then, and you know, largely down. But I think this is hopefully the performance that gets him back on track.
Feels like an ode to Kevin.
Yeah. Well, I've written 2 articles about him before. I've done my odes to Kevin. And like I said, if we can get him playing, he is. I think I don't know about you guys, because you are fans of lower league clubs as well. But I've always said, particularly in League One or under back home, like if you've got someone that's fast and runs at people, even if their delivery is not great, it makes a difference in these lower leagues, I think. And
absolutely.
And then the thing is, like, because I also remember Swansea having Nathan Dyer and Scott Sinclair, and we split the league and Nathan Dyer's delivery wasn't great. The great thing with Nathan Dyer was he improved in the Premier League. But for now, just get Kevin running at people and maybe not doing that thing where he cuts back and passes it to Victor Garcia as much. He can still do that, but
yeah, there is a confidence element in that when you're playing at that level. And he wasn't strictly a winger, but when we had a young Wesley Houlihan playing for Blackpool in League One, dear God, did he just tear it up. And you can see maybe a little bit of that more in Larrubia than Kevin, but
yeah, that's a really good comparison. Larrubia is a lot. I only thought that he is a Houlihan-ish, isn't he?
Yeah, I'd love to have seen Houlihan in Spain as well. Like, it's never going to happen, but Houlihan in Spain would have been brilliant.
Houlihan. or Hola Juan.
I think it's the added pressure. Like, if you just, I think that's also, like I said earlier about shots. Just get shots off. Don't try and walk it in. You never know what's going to happen. Someone could, if you put pressure on the opposition, the lower the quality of the opposition, the more likely they are going to make a mistake, and mistakes lead to opportunities. So I think, run at them, take shots, just, don't try and make it too complicated.
Sounds good to me, Alex. Nice and simple. Right. Okay. So a big win at La Rosaleda, and we're going to talk about the next game where we are taking a big following to Linares. See, this is a nice part of the podcast, because I've just gone from talking about Kevin, and that's got me all excited, and then sort of seeing we're talking about Linares, and I'm very, very excited about this now because there's 2,000 tickets on sale. I think most of them have gone. I think it is pretty much a sellout. Loads of buses going, lots of Malaguistas, and after probably 10 days of going, I'm going, but it's on a Sunday. I've got work in the morning. How do I get back? And going back and forth. And then eventually decided I'm not going. I had a WhatsApp message saying there's still a couple of places on the bus. And 10 minutes later, I paid for a ticket and was on the bus. So I am very excited, leaving La Rosaleda 10 a.m. Sunday morning to Linares, about 3 hours on the bus, probably a bit more with stops. I'm probably getting back to the Costa del Sol after midnight and getting a taxi back to Marbella, which is going to be, and then work.
I think you'll find this a bit of a beautiful trip as well, Matt, because not to engage in too many stereotypes, but you are a Murcia boy. Murcia, obviously famous for its mines, and
yes,
Linares, again, famous for its mines. So it could be a bit of a home from home, maybe.
Well, it's funny because there is a sort of project I'm working on, which I think you guys know about, which has required research in some of these places quite a lot. Linares was quite a hard one to dig into. So that was not a pun on mine.
Pun intended.
Yes, it was intended. Damn, I should have opened that. Yeah, literally all that comes up about Linares is mining. The other one that comes up quite a lot is I watched it. I think I saw a documentary on Spanish TV about Manolete, who is like one of the most famous bullfighters. Apparently he died there in a bullfight, which I didn't know. And Andres Segovia is from there, a famous guitarist who's big in Spain. So there is some other things there. But yes, you're right. Maybe I always talk about one of my favorite places I've been to in Spain is Oviedo, and that's quite famous for mining. I'm not sure if I should say that, actually. I've noticed recently the Malaga fans really don't like Oviedo, and I don't know the beef there. So maybe I shouldn't praise Oviedo. But yes, I can't think. I don't know if you guys remember, and I don't know, maybe this would have been a good question for Chris, but in the years I've been here, I remember Malaga taking big crowds to Cadiz and Granada and Almeria, maybe a bit less so Almeria. I don't think there's been like 2,000, but this is sort of mad. Like 2,000 fans go into this 10,000 seat stadium. 10,000 stadium. I don't know, Alex or Nick, can you think of any other away games like this?
What springs to mind actually is it was either our first away game or first game of the season, of our first season down in Segunda in 2018, away at Almeria. I think Chris was there as well. I don't know how many we took, but we won 1-0. I think, actually, funny enough, Jack Harper scored. It was, I think, I always feel like away days are a bit more fun than home games because it feels like you're going somewhere and it's sort of a small group of you. So, but then, it was, I think, maybe 2,000 in Almeria, and we, outsung the rest of the stadium. There obviously weren't many. There were a lot of Almeria fans, but, they were spread about. So, I think that's the one that springs to mind over any other, really. I know Cadiz was a big one when we were up in that, the fans got put up in that little sort of, up in the echelons when we won 1-0 in our second season in Segunda. I don't know if you guys remember that one.
I do, yeah. That was they absolutely hammered us, and we stole one. Actually, I think that was the start. I think that was Pelli-Press's first win, maybe, or one of his first wins, and got us going that season before COVID hit. But yeah, it's just I don't know why so many go into Linares, but I'm all for it. It's amazing. Like, I think I went to the Villarreal B game last year, and I think there was 500 fans there, and it was pretty mad then. So 4 times that amount. To quote you, Nick, I think I am going to enjoy it. In regards to the football side of things, I sort of noticed they've always done quite well, Linares. They've been in this league a couple of times and sort of been around the playoffs, and they've started this season quite well. They've just won 2 games in a row. They won away at Cordoba, which, is quite a big club to go to. I know they've not started great this year. Linares at 8th now. Although we should note, you were saying, Nick, that you sort of basically said Recreativo Granada were not really a team, and these guys have beaten them. I'm sorry, Recreativo Granada beat them.
They
drew with them. I think they drew 0-0, didn't they?
It was the second game of the season. They lost to Merida, drew with Recreativo Granada, and then beat Castilla and Cordoba.
So
go on.
I think obviously there's a fair bit about them. They seem to look like they're one of those solidly mid-table teams to me. This is a league where anyone can technically beat anybody. I just was more drawn into the comparisons with the clubs, and I feel like I made a meme that should have got a bit more love, if I'm honest. And only Luke liked it on Twitter, or X as it's now known. But
I've not seen this.
So it's just, the Spider-Man meme where they're pointing at each other, and it's like, oh yeah. So I did that with the Malaga badge and the Linares badge. Okay. Very similar badges. If you look very close at them, they've got the sash the way through, the ball, the castle, the shield. And honestly, they play in blue and white as well. And purely coincidental by the sound of things, because they say they play in blue because they were mining, I think it was sapphire or something like that, or something else. But yeah, I just thought it was a bit weird that, in this league, there is a Wish.com Malaga, and we're going to play them this weekend.
Yeah, I'm just quickly looking because they mine a blue mineral I've written down in my notes. I
don't think it's sapphire. I think sapphires are green, aren't they? But something like that, a precious jewel that's blue.
Oh, quickly, my other favorite fact I learned about the town in my little bit of research, and this is the nonsense you're going to get in these sort of previews, I think. Shout out again to Luke Chambers and the Luke Chambers cheat sheet, as I'm going to call it, because he sent us a load of stuff. But I was going to say that apparently Linares, the train station in Linares, was the gateway out of Andalusia. That was the only train station to get out of Andalusia. So if you're on the train and you were going to Madrid, you'd always go Linares, or it was. I don't know.
Oh.
Do people like trains?
Maybe that's why it's called Linares, the line out of. I don't know if that's the case. But to be fair, props to Luke, because I don't know about you, Alex, but I don't do too much homework for these podcasts. And Luke, who's not even on it.
Yeah, he has sent a long list. Some of it I had. There were some bits, like the bits on the players I didn't have, but my notes are more things like mine go a bit more to do with my other podcast. Platini played for Kuwait, so I've gone Oscar Fernandez. He's managed loads of B teams in Valencia, Atleti, Almeria, but he's also managed Qatar under-17s, and I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. And Tripoli, that's the thing that gets me. But I guess we've got to talk about the I don't know how much you did, guys, but there's obviously one headline that jumps out at, with this club, and it was the thing that got me straight away. This club do have Edward Campbell Sutherland, a.k.a. Teddy Sutherland. They have a Geary playing for them.
Where's he from?
He's from London, but he was brought up, Alex, in one of mine and your favourite places, Cartagena.
Ah.
So he moved to Cartagena. Pardon?
Spanish parents or the English parents?
No, they're English. I think he moved to Cartagena when he was 4. He basically played for Cartagena's B team. Then he tried at Getafe and Elche, went back to Cartagena's B team, got a chance at Atleti B. I noticed there was one season, not very long ago, actually, at Cartagena B, where he scored like 12 goals from out on the wing. So he's got, he seems to have been at B team level and sort of around 3rd, 4th, 5th division a lot. So I noticed he has played for them in recent games as well. I think he's come off the bench a couple of times. So
one to watch.
Yeah, so I thought, we're the Geary cast. We've got to mention there's not many Gearys on the football pitch in Spain. So yeah, I think he had a go at Villarreal at the youth level as well. So yeah, keep an eye out for Teddy Sutherland as well. What a great name! That does sound like he played in an FA Cup final pre-war.
That is a proper like old school English name as well, isn't it? Like even for away from Teddy to being, did you say it was Edward?
Yeah, Edward Campbell Sutherland.
Edward Campbell Sutherland. Probably slightly more Scottish than it is English in the long term, but definitely a double-barreled like Scottish noble.
Yeah, he is definitely. Well, again, I'm going off a bit of Wikipedia here. He's definitely born in London. Yeah, so keep an eye for him. I will just say some names. Well, like you said, Luke's done quite a bit of work here, so I'll give a shout out to some of the people he's mentioned. Rafa Lorente, who's on loan from Cardiff B. I think he's the guy that scored in the last game, actually, and I don't know if you saw that goal. He just sort of smashed it at a Cordoba defender and it rebounded in. Luke's used the word workhorse there, so keep an eye for him. Rodri, I think the main thing to take from Luke's notes here is the same thing I've come up with, is that loads of this team seem to have played for B teams lower down the leagues, and then they seem to have all had like spells at 1, 3rd or 4th division clubs. So there's quite a lot of players' experience here. Yeah, we should mention as well, I think I missed this actually, Samu Casado, is the number 1 goalie and was with Malaga for 5 years and made 48 appearances for Atletico Malagueño. So, shout out to Casado. Well, hopefully we're not shouting him out or shouting at him and laughing at the end of this game. Yeah, Linares. I am looking forward to.
One thing I saw Chris sent me this week is about they're raising money for the brother of so one of their players, Javi Rentero, has a brother who was in a car accident in the States, and they're at halftime will be raising money for his brother. I don't know whether that'll be through an area in the stadium where you can go and donate, or whether it will be an online thing. But yeah, Javier Rentero, one of the Linares players, his brother was in a traffic accident last year, so they're going to be using this opportunity, as there's going to be a lot of Malaga fans as well, to raise some money for his treatment as he's in the States at the moment.
Yeah, excellent to hear. Like the club are doing that, and obviously we pass on our best wishes and wish him a speedy recovery too. And if you are a Malaga fan, like myself in Linares, if I don't know, like you said, Alex, I don't know how we get the opportunity to donate, but it'd be nice if people can, if they get the opportunity to.
Time, that's it. And that's all I know about it.
Yeah. I think the club have tweeted about it, and I think I've seen it on Twitter as well. So maybe just keep an eye on the social medias and see what what they say is going to happen there. Let's quickly go to Malaga then. I did begin, guys, before we pressed record, to try and find the last time Malaga had won 4 games in a row. And maybe I shouldn't bring this up, but it seemed a long time ago. I didn't even get to the end to find when the last time was, but it's very long time ago.
Was it the beginning of the 2018 season when we won our first 5 games?
I think that might have been it, because I think I was getting to the 2018 season. I thought it might be that one. So again, maybe we can confirm that next week if we win. Maybe we shouldn't talk about it yet.
Victor Sanchez Del Amo, I don't know whether we won 4 in a row under him at any point.
I checked. I went through his season. I thought Pelli-Press might have, when he sort of turned things round when he first came in, but he had 3 in a row and a draw, I think. So he almost. I guess, what's our feelings on this game, guys? I feel like this is going to be a lot like the Atletico Baleares game, where it's going to be a bit of a slog, I think, particularly at the start. And don't know, we don't really know how these young players are going to react to it. There's a bit of pressure on them here, isn't there, from winning 3 games and getting that mentality going, and having this sort of quite large away support going, and not perhaps wanting to let them down. How do you feel about this game?
Maybe this is, I don't know, this is maybe a mistake on my part and showing my inexperience and lack of football management knowledge. But for a game like this, I would lean more towards the more experienced players. So I would stick with Sangali and Ganado in midfield. I don't know whether, obviously I think Kevin should stay there, but I feel like maybe integrating those younger players as the game is more matured and we've got maybe a foothold in the game, either we're winning or we're drawing. But yeah, I don't know whether maybe just for that first half, just to sort of, I don't know, take that initial blow, the more experienced players would be better at dealing with that.
Yeah, but what do you think, Nick? Because I think I'd agree. Even Kevin, in a way, you sort of think maybe this is a good game to bring Hernandez in, but I guess we've got Kevin a bit of confidence now. It's silly to pull the plug on that, I guess. But I do agree with Sangali, actually, Alex.
I'll just have to say, si no está roto, no le arregles. Which, if Alex can prove me right, says if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Is that right, Alex?
It's pretty good, yeah.
I'm guessing as well, because I know Spanish have really very different idioms, don't they? So I'll check if that is one. But
there might be an equivalent in Spanish.
It'd be probably be a very direct translation, like like when you go on Twitter and it says something like really bizarre, like the news might be something like the house was set on fire, but then it was like it was full of clowns.
Well, I always like the one my Spanish teacher always says is "soy una tumba," which I don't know if you know that one, Alex.
I think I've heard it before. Remind me what it means.
So it's basically like my lips are sealed, but it literally means I am a tomb.
There's a good one they use on the Spanish football podcast, isn't it? Where they're trying to say how a team might be a bit, I think it's more like shithousery, but there's like, is it en contigo or something like that? But it can mean like a multiple array of things. I'll have to go back and check it, but it can mean that you are difficult to play against, dark arts, all sorts of things, because there's not a word for that kind of stuff in Spanish.
I actually listened to that, and it is just a really generic words that's quite normal. But yeah, I forgot what it is now. I think it's something team. Like it's like otro football, or it's like other football. I'm sure it is. I think it's otro football.
Yeah.
Like just the other type of football or something like that. So I don't know if is there anyone else you think you'd like to see come out of this team, or are we saying it's if it's not broken, don't fix it? Was it no sin roto? I can't think I don't know what fix is in Spanish.
Si no está roto, no los arregles. Or arregle.
I think I don't know whether I think it's down to whether Einar is fit. I feel like if Einar is fit and put him back in the starting lineup, maybe. I obviously don't know whether he's fit or whether they were resting him tactically, or I don't know what the situation is there. But I think maybe that's the only change I would make, bringing back in Einar and keeping Sangali and Granado in the midfield.
Okay. With Daniel Lorenzo back in for Sangali. Sangali had a great game, but I think you've got to... I think this game is going to be very similar to the Atletico Baleares game. I think they're going to come at us a lot in the first 20 minutes and give us everything they've got, and then it's just going to die a bit of a death. And that's my opinion. I think a lot of teams in this league are going to do that. And if you can outrun them, of which Sangali can do, but I think Daniel Lorenzo gives you a bit more of a dynamic edge moving forward than Sangali does.
Yeah. If you are a fan of a Primera Federación club and you're listening to this and you're thinking these guys have a clue what they're talking about, please come and join us. Like a Linares fan the second half of the season.
I just like slagging them all off. I think they're all shit.
We don't play Depor, but I feel like Andrew Gillen might have some better knowledge than us because he's had a few years experience of Primera.
Yeah. And they've divided.
That's a compliment in a silk glove, isn't it? You've got loads more experience because you've been crap for 3 years and you've been stuck in this league.
I'm sure he'd say the same thing about Depor.
Yeah, I think that's, and don't get me wrong, I'm making an over generous statement, but I'm just summing it up for its parts at the minute. And from what I've seen, even Castellón, which is one of the better teams in this league, they ran out of steam quite quickly in the grand scheme of things. I think about an hour they lasted. Linares maybe a bit more than Atletico Baleares because they're now bottom of the league. So if we hit a happy medium, maybe they'll get to like 35 minutes half time and then just run out of ideas and we can pick them off from there.
Yeah, just quickly as well, I should mention that we've sort of tried to dig if Ramon and Haitam are any closer to being fit. And we're told, I think we've heard the Ramon's almost good to actually. I think they're both almost good to go. We think the week after, so maybe not like, I'm not saying they're going to be starting or on the bench, but they are getting there. I think was the gist, wasn't it?
I think Ramon will find it difficult to get back in to that team. I think Haitam's got more of a chance because you can rotate Roberto and Dioni, but Ramon's got a job on his hand because all 4 of those centre midfielders that we've played so far have done very, very well, not put much of a foot wrong.
He is. Haitam's next week, and I think Ramon is similar.
Yeah, I think with Ramon, I still think he's the most gifted footballer at our football club, but this style of play we're going is a little bit faster, and he's more of a put his foot on the ball sort of player. And like Dan, it's basically he's going for Danny Lorenzo's spot, I guess, isn't he? And I suppose he could go for Gennaro's, but he's not as
I don't think he's as combative as Gennaro can be. So when you look at it that way, and they're not going to. I don't think any of them brings the same kind of thing that La Rubia does. So really, then you've got 3 midfielders fighting for one spot in that midfield. It's going to be hard for him.
Okay, right. Before we wrap things up, guys, I'm going to do what Chris Marquez did last week. I sort of sometimes daydream about football things. And of course, usually I daydream about Kevin, but not always Kevin Medina. I basically spent a bit of time this week. God, I'm so sad. Trying to name as many Kevins as I could that have played in the Premier League. Now, I have got to 13 and I stopped. So I've not really thought about it since. God. Does anybody want to have a go at naming as many Kevins as they can? Or between the two?
I mean, should we do it together, Nick?
Let's do it together. But I've got 2 straight off the bat.
Kevin Davies is the first one that springs to mind.
So I didn't have him. I've got Kevin Kilban and Kevin Phillips.
Correct. Yeah, that's
3.
Sorry, I've got 14 then because I did have Kevin Kilban. I've just not written him down here.
Kevin Nolan.
Okay, yeah, I've got him.
Kevin Kilban, Kevin Phillips, Kevin Davis.
Got a Sunderland one. I'll give you that.
Kevin Nolan. Was it Kevin Gillespie?
No.
Is this?
But it's Kevin G. Yeah, Premier League.
Okay.
I initially tried to do Champions League with Kevin. Or it's one you haven't said, but
Kevin De Bruyne.
Kevin De Bruyne.
He's an obvious one.
Right.
We got 5 so far.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, this isn't as easy as I think it would be.
No, I did. It took me a while. Oh, no, sorry. It is 13. I have written Kevin Kilban down.
Kevin.
This is what my head works like. Initially, I wanted to be Premier League goal scorers, but bizarrely, there's not a list of every single Premier League goal scorer called Kevin. Right, I'll give you maybe 30 seconds, guys. See if you get a couple more, because it's not great podcast listening.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm struggling a little bit now after I think I've named
I'll give you a clue. One of them's won a European Golden Boot.
Ooh.
Was that not Kevin Phillips?
Oh, have you said him? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, yes. He was one of my first ones.
Oh, sorry. I thought you said one of the other ones. I'd gone.
So we've got 5 or 6 now. I think 5.
Okay. Just quickly then, one of them's a goalie, scored a goal in an FA Cup. I think it was the League Cup or FA Cup. Famous penalty, best penalty ever.
That's annoying me now.
Does Kevin Gillespie count?
No, he's not a player.
No, I think he was
Keith Gillespie.
Keith Gillespie, that was it.
Yeah, I know I had a Gillespie in there.
But there is a Newcastle Kevin G, who's perhaps more famous at Blackburn. Scottish.
Oh, Kevin Gallagher.
Yeah. Right. I'll give you the list, guys.
Yeah.
Good effort, actually. You got sort of the medium cuts. There's a couple of
halfway there.
Yeah. So you got Kevin Campbell, Kevin Phillips, Kevin De Bruyne. This is just the order I wrote them down. Kevin Davis, Kevin Gallagher, Kevin Nolan, Kevin Kilban. The goalkeeper is Kevin Pressman, of course, with that amazing penalty. Kevin Doyle, who I'd sort of forgotten about and really thought about. Kevin Lizzie. Kevin Lisby, former Sunderland legend and one-time manager Kevin Bell, Kevin Kyle, also for Sunderland, and the really fun one, I was my number 13, and I hadn't really thought about in many years, Kevin Morales.
Oh, yeah, from Everton.
Yeah, lots. If I don't think that's them all. There might be more out there, but that's as far as I got in my list this week. So I thought we'd finish with a little quiz, I
think we did well to get over halfway with the obvious Kevins. I can't
also,
say I know too much about Kevin Pressman myself or Kevin Bell, but
well, there you go. If you don't know much about Kevin Pressman, dear listeners, go and check out his famous penalty, which just is absolute top bins. So that's what I did this week. Yeah, to be fair, I did put you on the spot with it. I did take a bit of time. I think I did it actually when I was on break duty this week in my head or something to pass the time.
I'm quite liking the little end of podcast quizzes though. This is quite nice. It's a nice way to end.
We'll try and keep it on a theme. I thought, the first time Kevin is back, I thought let's do Kevin themed. Next week, Champions League goal scorers, Kevin Karani. Right. Thank you guys for listening to me talk about Kevin and other Kevins a lot on this week's episode. It has been a delight. So I'll say thank you, Alex Ashmore.
Thank you very much. Vamos Malaga, and here's to 3 points on the weekend against Linares.
Lovely stuff. And thank you, Nick Bell.
Thank you very much, Matt. Enjoy your trip to Merthyr's Twin Town. Plenty of Victoria to be drank, and
that was the Victoria gesture I just did. I was drinking two, just in case it looked like something else.
Yeah, not to mistake for any other gesture. Clipped. But yeah, do enjoy it. Like I said, I think it's going to be quite an experience with 2,000 Malaguistas really turning their stadium into a bit of a home ground, I reckon. But as always, vamos Malaga, and thanks very much for joining us.
Yeah, I should have made the joke, Linares Leda. No, it's a bit of a mouthful. But yes, thank you guys for listening. To everyone traveling up to Linares, like myself, I'm very excited. Have a safe journey. We'll try and cheer the lads on, etc. Have a lovely week, and adios, vamos Malaga.